My buddy Reggie here, one of the problems that he has, the main problem the Guardian wants to really work on is his reacting to the cat. We'll work on that later. But right now, since you mentioned he really hates the kennel, and they've spent some time working on it, but I don't think that they created a positive association. So the first thing we did is we changed the name. Right now we're calling it Maui. They may change it to something else. But the first thing you want to do is just toss the treat in the kennel, Maui. After the dog licks it up off of the floor, we want the treat to touch the tongue and then say the command word right after. So now it's starting to create a positive association. Now if you have a dog that won't go in the kennel, just put the treat like right here, Maui. And at first you get them to come here, then to here, then to here, and eventually they'll go stick their head in, but they won't go in further. Eventually you can get them to go all the way in. You keep practicing tossing the treats in like this, and see how he's lingering, half in, half out. That tells me that he's comfortable. Now, if you ever like shoved your dog in, sorry buddy, and slammed the door down and kind of tricked him to going in there or forced him in there, that will exasperate your problem. So I always want the dog to do the work. In this case, just going in the kennel, Maui. Something good happening, and then having the ability to exit. Now, the second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stand up, so we might not get the best shot because it's a little bit of a cozy room. So you might not see my head. That's fine. I'm going to toss the treat in there. You only want to do this when he will go into the kennel without any hesitation. If he's stiff, or he's leaning in, or he's stopping, or he's running right out, you haven't achieved it yet. So you can see he's nice and relaxed. He laid down. He's very comfortable. His body's not stiff. Maui. All right, so now what I'm going to do is stand up. Now, sometimes transitioning from a sit into an up will cause the dog a little bit of concern. So what I'm doing now is I'm just blocking the exit with my feet. But the door is open. For most dogs, the problem with the kennel is not being in the kennel. It's the kennel is associated with my humans leaving me. Now I'm left alone, and I'm confined. So what we want to do is we want to break down this experience into two small steps, or two small things. In this case, being in the kennel, but with the door open, so I don't feel confined. I'm blocking him from exiting with my legs. And then the other thing is the human is in the room. Right now she's filming. So he's looking at her like, can you get me out of here? Now, the only way that I'm going to let him out is when he surrenders. My indication that he surrenders is L-A-Y-ing. I'm spelling it out because I don't want him to do it on command. Now, he's stationary. Usually when he sits down, I will take a step backwards. If he tries, if he shifts on his hips, like puts his feet to the side, I would take another step backwards. But when I step back, I'm only taking 2 steps at a time. I want to wait for him to L-A-Y. And I'm going to keep at this. That's a calming signal. It tells me he's a little bit stressed, the yawn. And so I'm going to wait for him to L-A-Y. Now, if I tell him to S-I-T or L-A-Y, it does not signify anything. However, if he does it himself and I'm constricting or not allowing him out, but the gate is open, I'm just doing it through movement, when he L-A-Ys, he's saying, I surrender. I want him to understand that surrender is what is going to get the reward. So the instant that he surrenders, I'm going to take a knee and I'm going to give him a C-O-M-E command so he understands he can come out of the kennel. So the first stage of this is just keep putting the dog in the kennel this way. There we go. Come. 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 Now after this, I immediately throw a treat back in there, Maui, and I don't repeat the blocking thing. I don't want him to think that every time I go in the kennel, it's guaranteed that I'm going to be locked in there. For a lot of people, that's the only time they put their dog in the kennel, like I mentioned earlier, Maui. So the kennel represents I'm being sequestered and left alone. So now I'm going to do this again, and now I follow up again, and we should see a little bit faster. Sits down, I take a step back right away, just 2 steps. If you take multiple steps, the dog thinks you're meandering around, so just 2 steps only. Now you see he's nice and relaxed. Now if a dog is breathing heavy, it's whimpering, it's whining, it's drooling, then you probably need to practice throwing the treat in there more and more until he's completely comfortable. Now a couple other little tricks you can do. You can give him like a bully stick, put it in the kennel, come, and then close the door with the dog outside the kennel and the bully stick inside the kennel. Now you create a desire to want to go in that kennel to get the bully stick. Maui. So we want to create positive association. So every time you get a bully stick or a new bone or a new toy, this is where he should find it. Now if every time we go to a restaurant we find a $100 bill in the lobby, we're going to eat at that restaurant a lot. If every time he goes in this kennel, he finds a treat or a bone or a bully stick, he's going to be more inclined to want to go in there, and we're creating a positive association. Now, if your dog does that, he sees it but won't go all the way in, I might toss one halfway distance between the two. Now, I'm not going to encourage him to go get it and say, go get it over and over again, because that means that now I have something that he wants. Or he has something I want, excuse me. So this time I'm going to drop it right outside. So you see how he checked in with me to see if I'm going to be blocking him in there. Maui. Maui. So the first stage of this is just getting your dog comfortable going in the kennel. Second stage is to block, and as soon as he sits down, we take 2 steps. When he lays down, then we give him permission to come out. The third step is we're going to put him in there, and we're going to, once he starts laying down, I'm going to go through all the instructions for this. Come over here, buddy. So once he starts laying down right away like he is now, the next time we do it, after he lays down, I might wait 3 seconds before I give him the come command. The next time I might do 5 seconds, then 10 seconds. Then work by 10-second increments up to a minute, then go by 1-minute increments up to about 10 minutes. Now when you're doing this, the idea is we're helping him practice being in the kennel calm without anything bad happening. Matter of fact, good things are happening. Now, the further away that we move, the easier it is for him to move out. So we don't want to move too far away too fast. We want to stay a couple of feet away at first. And eventually we want to move all the way back here. Now it's only a couple feet to the exit. Eventually what I would do is when the dog goes in here, once he's laid down, first I'm going to take a step. We're going to count to 10 seconds or whatever. We're going to increase that level. I'm going to have you shoot me in the face now. So basically, we're going to help him practice being there for longer periods of time, but calm. If he's whining and whimpering, then we have to go back a step and help him practice. We want him to practice with this sort of energy. You can shoot him real quick. We want the dog to be like this, completely relaxed, laying down. The tail is not going up. He's not breathing heavy. He's not whining. He's not whimpering. He's nice and relaxed. Kind of an unorthodox position there, but he's a pit bull mix, and pits sit. All dogs sleep in weird positions. Okay, so let's go back to me. So let's say the dog is laying down in here. We've gotten to the point where we're getting up to maybe 5 minutes with him laying down. You might want to put the chair here and just read and do some stuff here where he sees you and you're sitting in front of him. Don't ever sit unless he's laying down first. Eventually, when you get to the point where you move back here and he's still in there, then we take 1 step out. He can't see me. I'm outside of his line of sight. First time I take 1 step out, come back, and then say, come. Next time I do it, I might stay out here 3 seconds, and I might move a little bit further away. The whole process is to get him to stay inside there for gradually longer periods of time. Now, technology is great for us. It gives us the ability to monitor dogs through remote cameras. The Guardians actually have a baby camera in here or a security camera so they can watch him. So on the iPad or a tablet or whatever, when we come out here, we would be watching him. Now, I haven't gone through this with the Guardians, but I have a series of what I call escalating consequences. If you want to know what they are, if you go to doggoneproblems.com, click on the dog training tips. There's a search box on the side of the page. You can type in escalating consequences, all the write-ups that have a video that talks about all of them. But basically, I'm going to use the escalating consequences to have him stay in there. I use a hissing sound as my warning not to do something. So if I'm outside the room watching him and I see that he starts to get up, I'm going to hiss at him, which is my warning. If he started to move forward, I would rush inside and then block him again. That's why when we do this, we just stay right outside the door, out of his line of sight, but close enough to take action. And once we get to the point where we do it outside, we're going to do this for progressively longer and longer periods of time. But throughout this whole process, the door to the kennel is completely open. So there's nothing for him to fight against. He's the one developing the control himself. Maui. Good job. So I'll do this one more time. There we go. He sat down right away. And he's going to LAY here in a second, it looks like. Now when you're doing this, make sure nobody's eating food in here. We're not doing anything crazy because that'll cause him to be a little bit more anxious and want to get out.
I'm going to stand up on the chair.
Okay, perfect. So now I'm going to step outside the room. Come here, buddy. Come here. All right, we'll use positive reinforcement. Come here. So you see his hesitancy and his reluctance because my instinct is to grab him and make him go back in there. But if I do that, then I'm kind of validating his fears. So I'm going to breadcrumb. You see he's coming kind of a little bit slowly. There we go. Yeah. Maui. So again, we accomplished this, but we did it through positive reinforcement to get him back in the kennel. Now, that time I moved outside and he came out of the kennel. That's a good illustration that this is too far too fast. We need to, again, get him to the point where he stays in there with me in the room in his line of sight first, before we get to the point where we start practicing having him stay in while he's outside of our line of sight. So we'll see if we can get him to LAY. Now, again, I don't want to tell the dog to SIT or LAY. I'm going to wait for him to do that on his own. But basically, the whole premise is creating a positive association with being inside the kennel and helping him practice it by eliminating the two things that he disagrees with or is fearful of, being restrained and being left alone. Now, first, when we're doing this, we're right in his line of sight. Eventually, we're doing this outside of his line of sight, but he can still smell us and hear us. He knows we didn't leave. He knows we're just right out here. And then the more time that he spends in the kennel in a calm frame of mind, then the next time he goes in the kennel, that's what he remembers. This is a place I come in to relax. So if you have a dog now, if you have a kennel for your dog, the wire makes this a lot easier. If you're going to get a kennel to train your dog to do this, if you have the plastic one, you can't see from the top if the dog's LAYing or not. Now, because of what happened last time, you saw it took a little bit longer for him to LAY. So now he laid down, his back is to the camera, and his head is turned away from me, which is a very relaxed body posture. And now we're going to let him sit in there for about 10 or 15 seconds before I give him the release command. And again, you want to do this very progressively, very gradually. Get yourself up to the point where he's laying in there for 10 minutes completely calm before you start moving outside. And the first time, move out of his line of sight for 1 second and come back here. If he got back up, then wait for him to LAY, then take the knee and have him come back out. And again, eventually you'll get to the point where you can stay outside the room for like 10 minutes and he stays calm, and again, we can watch him on the baby monitor. Once we get to the point where, I don't know what the length of time would be, but for dogs, once they can get to 2 hours, they can go beyond 2 hours. And so, every dog's formula is going to be a little bit different for this. So there's no right or wrong. Go at your dog's pace. But again, if your dog starts whining, whimpering, or freaking out, you push too far, too fast, back up a step, practice that step a couple more times till the dog feels comfortable, and then you can give them the permission to come. All right, this is how you can train your dog to be comfortable in the kennel.